Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from basically a string of numbers from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and before we do get into it, there is some warnings of mentions of miscarriage and wishing death upon someone as well. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Now let's get started. It's Am I the Arsehole for not giving my nephew my baby's fund? Chris, my husband 31, Rory, father-in-law, Sean, my nephew 16, and Tom, my brother 35. I, 30 female, don't have a baby right now. About 2 years ago, I got pregnant and Chris and I told our families. Rory gave us a check for £1,000. He said he wanted us to use it to buy baby stuff while the kid was young, and whatever was left over should be saved for when our child turns 18 and then given to them. I miscarried shortly after, and we tried to give Rory the money back, but he asked if we were planning on trying again, to which we replied that we wouldn't be anytime soon, but someday definitely. He said to keep the money, put it in a savings account and keep adding to it for when we did have a baby. Chris and I tried to put in about £10 a week between us, which is doable for high school teachers. We missed a couple of weeks, but there's about 2,500 in there right now, and we've never taken out of it. In 2 years, the only people who have put money in this account are me, Chris, and Rory. Both myself and Chris have been to therapy, and we agreed to try again about 6 months ago, and I'm now pregnant again, at 4 months. We told our families today, and Rory and my mother-in-law are both really happy for us, as are my parents. Tom, however, looked a bit sad. I asked if I could speak to him off to one side. In the conversation that ensued, Tom said that he'd actually been hoping to ask me about the baby fund. Tom and his wife are both on living wage, meaning they earn slightly less than us, as they had Sean at the age where they would have gone to uni. So it's important to them that Sean gets to go. Sean is 16 but plans to go to uni in a couple of years. Tom and his wife are concerned that if Sean got a job to save up, it would affect his grades and they don't have the money to spare. So before Tom knew I was pregnant, he was basically hoping he could ask me to transfer the current content of the baby fund over to Sean and keep giving Sean the money that would otherwise go into the baby fund, as he worries Sean will not be able to afford uni otherwise. If I were to agree to this and keep doing it until he finished uni, I could restart the baby fund when the baby I'm currently carrying is about 5 years old. I told Tom I wasn't comfortable with that for several reasons. The main one being, at most, a third of it is actually my money. That the money is meant for my baby, and that the money was also meant to be used when the baby was due to get baby stuff, which we'd struggle to afford otherwise on teachers' wages. I said I'd be willing to work something out, and that with the pregnancy, Chris is gradually taking on more housework, so maybe if Sean wanted to come over and do some garden or help with chores, I could pay him out of my money, not the baby fund. But Tom says that Sean can't be distracted from his studies. I said that while I love my nephew, I'm just not comfortable giving money meant for my child to Sean. Am I the arsehole? Edit. My family side with Tom, as the baby isn't born yet and have time to rebuild the fund. Chris and Rory side with me in that the money, as far as they're concerned, is for the child and grandchild. But Rory also said, do what you think is best. Mother-in-law wants to keep the peace, but the initial money was just as much her idea as Rory's. Clarification. Rory has no relation to either Tom or Sean, and no one on my side of the family, other than me, has made any contribution to the baby fund. I know we've covered a lot of stories with entitlement, etc., but when someone has a goal to ask something like this, and it's just so incredibly bloody rude. Plenty of people that I've known that's gone on to uni have worked their way through uni, had a job at the same time. It's absolutely possible. But to discover that someone else has got some money saved up and then you go and say, oh, can you just transfer that to my son? Absolutely weird. And what's even more heartbreaking is they knew what that fund was for as well and what you've gone through at the same time. So that makes it even more heartbreaking for me. Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. Do not transfer that money. End of. But Arch Amber says, not the arsehole, your nephew is not your financial responsibility. Your child is. Next commenter says, no, just no. What on earth? Do not give any of this money to Tom. I do not understand how he even dares to entertain the thought of asking you for it, considering the history tied with this money. Miscarriage, and that it is yours. He had nothing to do with building these savings. It is not your responsibility to put Sean through uni. Not the arsehole. Another user says, not the arsehole, perhaps Tom could get a second job to take care of his own responsibilities instead of mooching off someone else. What a rude, selfish thing to ask. Shake my head. I just cannot get over the sheer arrogance of this. If they had put aside $10 a week or whatever for the course of your nephew's life, this wouldn't be a concern. Poor planning on their part does not constitute an emergency on your part. Basically, they saw dollar signs and hope you'd just be too sad to keep the money if you weren't pregnant. Barrel of Tiger says, not the arsehole. Even if you weren't pregnant, I think it's an incredibly rude imposition to ask you to give Sean any of the baby fund. Tom and his wife need to work out supporting their own child, and if Sean needs to put uni off to save up to avoid working and studying, then so be it. It is not your responsibility to pay for your nephew, especially now that you are pregnant and will be needing that money. It's also an extra tactless step that Tom asked knowing you're now pregnant again. It would be rude before, but now he knows he's asking you to take your relatively small baby fund because he wants his son to have an easier ride he can't provide. And one more comment from Shansu who says, not the arsehole. He not only wants the money you've saved, but for you to keep contributing to his son's college fund. Since when are uncles and aunties responsible for paying for college for their nieces and nephews? It's Tom's and his wife's responsibility to fund their children's education. If that's an issue, then Sean should get a part-time job and help out. Plenty of people have managed to work and study at the same time, and that just might be what they need to happen. This is not your responsibility. I think it'd have been really interesting to know what Sean's point of view is on this as well. Does he agree with his dad and mum, or would he be like, what the fuck? Why are you asking this from my aunt? But OP did come in with her update and said, hi. Of all the things I was expecting to see in this thread, I didn't quite expect this. Lol. Still pregnant, about 7 months. My husband and I agreed to pay my nephew and niece to do some jobs for me around the house, and they've accumulated a chunk of cash each. Niece at £100-ish, nephew closer to 500. Check out when they go to university. Brother is none the wiser, and thanks to their efforts, the nursery is ready to go. Nephew has asked his parents to let him get a job, but still no luck. However, his college does these programs within school time, which pay, so he's applying for one of those. My mother outright wished that I lost this child because I was so selfish to not help out family. And my brother agreed and said that he would make sure to teach my child to take care of others, and that they each made a Facebook post about it, which ended up with me getting a bunch of anonymous messages wishing sickness and death on me and my child. I came off social media and have not spoken to either my mother or brother in a couple of months. Outside of that, I'm doing okay. Baby looks healthy, marriage going strong, and no one has wished death on me or my baby since I blocked my mother and brother. So shit got wild for a second there, but I think it's pretty much over. What the hell? There is no coming back from that from your family. Wishing death upon your child? That's just sick. I'm actually posting this bullshit to social media at the same time, expecting people to back them. I really hope they didn't. I'm suspecting the anonymous message you got were like dummy accounts from your mum and brother because they're twisted, and I think anyone reading into this will be going like, what the hell? So unless they span their own narrative on social media that made themselves look good in some kind of way, scratching my head how that might be, but I can't imagine anyone reading into this will have strange ass behavior. One comment on this that said, okay, I get they apparently live on minimum wage, but they're going this hard over £2,500. Did she miss a zero? That's basically $3,000 give or take. The nephew could get a summer job as a cashier or something and probably make that in a few months. Also, it's not like that much money would pay for everything they'd need. They probably still need a part-time job or something to help pay for fees and supplies at least. I get that the brother wants the best for his son and for him not to split focus while in school, but holy crap, wishing death upon your sister, who's already been through a miscarriage and her unborn child over again, around $3,000 is next level batshit crazy. Now obviously I don't know where this post is, but you'll be surprised at how little money can turn families against each other. I'm currently noting stories, another Waffle original, about a family which I knew which basically imploded over them winning some bingo money. Have you got bingo where you are? But hopefully that will be coming soon. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Potential Claim 9399 and says, am I the arsehole for refusing a co-worker's gift of used housewares? So, I, 30 female, recently eloped with my boyfriend, well, now husband, 39 male. We purchased a home on the lake in a new subdivision, and it truly is our dream home. We've closed on our house about a month prior to the elopement, so we already had moved our belongings in and purchased anything else we needed and sold any other belongings that we had in each of our apartments since the leases were up or almost up. Once some of my co-workers found out we had eloped, they wanted to throw me a shower. I politely told them I was perfectly fine with having a little party to celebrate, but no gifts. When asked why no gifts, I told them honestly, didn't need anything. Typically in my area, when a wedding shower or housewarming party is thrown, people give toasters or sets of dishes, etc. Our home is furnished. We both have successful jobs. No gifts or monetary gifts, please, but we would love to celebrate with you. Your presence is the only gift we want. That was basically the conversation, and it was received well. The party happened and all went well. Yesterday, a co-worker who had not came to the party randomly showed up at our home. I'm not close with this person. We actually try to avoid each other most days. Anyway, she arrived at our home with 3 large black trash bags that contain used houseware items from her home. She said she knew it was hard when you're first starting out and thought these items could help us while we get on our feet. She also made a comment about how she was going to have a garage sale but would rather just give them to someone who needed them. I told her I really appreciate the thought, but that we were settled and maybe she should take her items and give them to someone who needed them because we were on our feet. She said I was just being modest. She ended up refusing to tell me how she got my address and also refused to take her gifts back with her. I told her we didn't need her items, but if she wanted to leave them, I'd be happy to donate them for her. She said I was being rude. She did leave the bags though, and I'm taking them to a local consignment store that sells items and uses the money to help survivors of domestic violence. Am I the arsehole? Let's get the first concerning thing out of the way. Is like, how did she get your address? You don't know this person very well. Where did the address come from? I'm hoping we're going to cover that at some point. Now, usually I would say this would be a nice thing to do, but you were so explicit on like no gifts, monetary gifts, your presence is the only gift we want. And then the fact she was doubling down and saying that you've already settled, you know, I thought that you was more than kind to her in the way that you was dealing with her, and she was just insistent on it. And personally, I don't want this to sound rude or ungrateful or anything, but I wouldn't want to have to deal with 3 trash bags full. I got enough of my own crap around my house, you know. I got to sort out at some point. I simply don't think he was being rude in this situation. But one commenter says, not the arsehole. How did she get your address? That's the worrying thing for me. She knew what she was doing was BS, or she had given it to you at work. It's worth finding out if she misused company resources to find your new address in case you need to start a thing with HR. Opie says, I've thought about it. I think the fact that we're not friends and mutually do not care for one another is the concerning part for me. Had it been a friend, they would have asked for the address, or it would have already been given to them. But a random person from work that I dislike randomly showing up, no thank you. I'm scheduling a meeting with HR first thing tomorrow morning. Commenter says, this is 100% my paranoia and predilection for reading fiction talking, but don't keep anything that was given to you. It's extremely unlikely, but what if there was a monitoring, recording, tracking device in something? OP says, new fear unlocked. Prairie Mountain Zen says, not the arsehole. She was too lazy to have a garage sale, so dumped all of her old junk onto you instead and pretended it was a housewarming gift. Yeah, no thanks. Diligent Comfort says, not the arsehole. It would have been no one's an arsehole here if your colleague accepted your refusal of the gifts when you first made it. Ignoring your refusal and effectively dumping the things on you was in itself rude and an arsehole move. This is actually a problem for me, as I've had a number of experiences of a similar nature. People can't bear to throw away useful items that they no longer want, but can't be bothered to sell or donate them themselves. Solution, dump them on someone else as a gift. It gets rid of the problem, it sounds generous and well-meaning, and leaves the recipient with a disposal problem. Sorted. Just another says not the arsehole. It was rude to show up at your home. It was rude to ignore the no gifts please ask. It was rude to say you're in such need you need her leftovers. It was rude to bring you trash, and it was rude to ignore your refusal and leave the bags. Her heart may have been in the right place, but she had so many opportunities to correct course that it makes her an arsehole to you. Good for you for sending the items on to folks who will need them and for a good cause, and congrats on the new home and husband. One angry Ravenclaw says you are obviously living in a different economic and social structure than this woman, which is why she actually drove up to your new lakefront home and continued to think, shucks, my coworker must need cookie sheets. There's a clear disconnect here, and as you said, it was obviously in the office too. You are not the arsehole, and your gentle refusal was very polite. I don't believe this woman had the coherent thought, lol, I'll bring my used goods in trash bags so she'll have to bring them to Goodwill, not me. She also didn't think, lakefront property, 2 high earners who are not 19 years old. She just didn't think. And most of my circle is lower income economically, and none of us would ever show up with bags of used home goods uninvited. It's embarrassing for the giver and the receiver unless it's asked for and the relationship is close. This is awkward and uncommon behavior, and you are not the arsehole. One more comment from Sweet Iced Tea who says not the arsehole. I had a coworker like this. A couple of other coworkers had given me clothing for my kids. The stuff was in fantastic condition, some of it still with tags on and 95% good, usable clothing. It was appreciated. Another coworker caught wind of this and offered me clothing. I was like, sure, I'd appreciate it. Well, she comes in and gives me a contractor bag filled with the grossest, stained, stretched out crap you've ever seen. The only place it belonged was in a dumpster. I eventually found out that she took all of her good clothes and sold them to a consignment store and gave me the rest to save herself a trip to the thrift store. Seriously, these things weren't even fit for the thrift store. Ultimately, I just tied up the bag and put it directly into my trash can. Of course, to be polite and because I had to continue working with this person, I didn't say a word. She offered me clothing a couple more times after that, but I politely declined, saying another friend had gifted me clothing and I was all set. So OP comes in with her update and says HR was miraculously able to see me this morning. She also found the address issue concerning. I work in healthcare and I am also a patient where I work. Everything you access within our system is logged. So when they pulled her access records, it turned out my coworker had accessed my medical records 5 times within a week. It was never within her job duties to access my file. She had also accessed 2 other coworkers' files. They terminated her employment on the spot. Within our company, and I would imagine most, that is grounds for immediate termination. Her sister-in-law is also an employee there and she had accessed my records as well. Her employment was also terminated. Now I'm wondering if I need to seek legal action or even get a restraining order. My husband donated the items this morning. He said he didn't want them in the garage any longer than necessary. I'd read him the comment about the items possibly having bugs or being bugged and now we are both paranoid. A commenter said, so glad to read that. That's a lot of crazy to deal with. Now that she's gone, the items are gone. I hope your peace of mind is improved. The restraining order may be a good idea. I hope some law or legal types weigh in on that. Opie says, oh, there is no peace of mind now. I honestly feel worse. If a person is so unhinged to do what she did, like, where is the stopping point? Will there be retaliation against us? It's scary at this point, and to be honest, I don't feel safe. If you could have seen her face when they walked her out, oh my goodness, it was frightening. That is absolutely terrifying and really sad for the OP at the same time that, you know, they just got married, they just moved into a new place and they're having to deal with this kind of shit because of someone else's actions. And I was both shocked and not shocked how quickly she got fired, that you get fired on the spot for that kind of thing. I mean, it makes total sense, doesn't it? Misusing company records like that, yeah, absolutely, it deserves that kind of thing. But I was like, whoa, they are not messing about. There was one comment below that, and I know the whole thing is not a laughing matter, but someone mentioned about the trash bags and the woman turned up with 3 trash bags and she says, and the commenter was joking about, where are they finding these trash bags that can hold that amount of stuff? They said they put a large banana peel in theirs and it rips. It's pretty much the same with the trash bag around ours. They're the equivalent of 1-ply toilet paper. Your fingers just go through them. Anyway, What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for joining me today. Get involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.